internationalized
What has he clarified?
It is Prime Minister Modi
Kamar,
who has internationalized.
Kamar, I'm sorry to interrupt you. I'm sorry to interrupt you. We have to go for... There is a briefing that we need to cut to live. We're going to come back to this discussion. There is a briefing on the Modi-Trump meeting that's on right now. Let's listen in.
Understood that it is important for access to be given for talented Indians to the United Kingdom, and he said he understood the value that talented Indians bring to the economy and society of Great Britain. The Prime Minister himself congratulated Prime Minister Johnson, said that this is a critical time when he is the Prime Minister of Great Britain at the time of Brexit. The Prime Minister said that he stands by Prime Minister Johnson. We stand with Great Britain and we are ready to work with them once Brexit is over. The two Prime Ministers have agreed that a small team will be set up to progress the economic agenda. And therefore, the principal discussion that was held with Prime Minister Johnson focused on how, in the post-Brexit scenario, we can develop the partnership, we can strengthen economic and commercial relations. And what Prime Minister Johnson did say was that come 31st October, Britain would leave the European Union. So therefore, the decision that we will set up this small team to see how we can progress that relationship thereafter. There was some discussion that the two leaders had on the G-7. Both agreed on the importance of working together in Africa. Boris Johnson mentioned the issue of climate change and environment, and Prime Minister conveyed to him that we are launching a national campaign against plastic waste in the oceans and against single-use plastic. That was welcomed by him. There was a brief discussion on the situation in the Gulf, on the need to find a new pathway if the JCPOA is not acceptable. And there was also some discussion on Afghanistan, where the two leaders agreed that there was an importance of gaining some clarity on what would happen if and when a deal is signed and announced between the United States and various Afghan groups. There was a brief meeting with the UN Secretary General. As you know, Prime Minister will be going to the United Nations General Assembly next month and participating as one of the keynote leaders and speakers in the UN Secretary General's Climate Change Summit or Climate Summit. Mr. Gutierrez mentioned that he is very enthusiastic about Prime Minister's leadership on climate change. Prime Minister himself spoke of the initiative on single-use plastic. He also took some time to explain his new initiative, which is the Coalition for Disaster Resilient Infrastructure, which we hope to launch during Prime Minister's visit to New York next month. And one of the ideas he spoke of in this regard was whether or not the world could come together to create a pool of trained volunteers in a global movement which would help countries recover after a disaster. This was one of the ideas that they spoke about. The Secretary General also expressed concern, of course, over India's thermal power plants in the context of climate change, and Prime Minister explained to him that India is moving towards renewable forms of energy, cleaner forms of energy. In this regard, the Prime Minister referred to nuclear power and said that this is an investment-intensive industry, that therefore the membership of the Nuclear Suppliers Group is crucial to build investor confidence. And the UNSG said that he understood India's position in this regard and that he was willing to help out in this matter. So broadly, the discussions with UNSG focused on Prime Minister's forthcoming participation in the Climate Change Summit, as well as Prime Minister's own initiatives that he intended to take during the Climate Change Summit, including celebrating the 150th anniversary of Mahatma Gandhi, at which the UN Secretary General will also be present in a special function. This morning, Prime Minister had a brief meeting with the President of Senegal. Senegal is a country which is important to us. We have had substantial bilateral relations with them. This was a bilateral meeting at which we discussed how we would develop further cooperation with the West African states, including in renewable energy. We have given 250 e-rickshaws or solar...
Okay, we will go back to that briefing when it concerns the meeting between Prime Minister Modi and President Trump. Kamar, apologize for interrupting you. You were